Hey, everybody, it's Kelly Nielsen here, the Grief Guru. And on this channel, we talk about all things related to grief. What does it look like? What does it feel like? But most importantly, we share tips, tools, and resources on how to navigate through grief and get back to living a life that you love. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to go back to work after losing someone that you love. Going back to work is no easy thing. For some people, although it is a welcome distraction, but it certainly comes with a lot of complexities and a lot of things that you really need to think through in order to make your transition back to work successful. Now, I know that a lot of people have varying amounts of time off. Hopefully, you work for an employer who is understanding and sympathetic and offers you the flexibility to come back on your terms when it's right for you. But if not, I want to give you some tools for how to navigate, even if you don't feel fully ready. The first is to know your options. Talk with HR staff at your company and really explore all the options available to you. You have Family Medical Leave Act rights available to you. You certainly probably have paid time off that's accrued and available to you, but really discuss with an HR rep before you come back what the options are. An option might be coming back part-time as you transition back into your full-time role. Another thing you may want to think about is if there's a different position or department within the company. Think about the role and the job that you're currently in and really try to do an assessment to see if that's the best fit for you right now. Now, it might be, and I certainly encourage you to go back to work in your current role and see how it goes. You may find that you do better than you anticipate. But if you know that the role that you're in is kind of too much for you to take on right now, talk again with your HR rep or your company to see there may be a different position that is available in the company and might be a better fit for you during the season as you're recovering from grief. I know I've shared in other videos that's something that I had to do when my mom passed away because I was in a leadership role and I found that I just didn't have the capacity for that role. It took me several months to come to that conclusion, actually, probably 3 to 4 months of going back in the role and realizing I just didn't have it in me to continue in that role. And I ended up transitioning to a different company altogether. But those are some of the things to try to think through beforehand and to talk with your employer and HR department. I do encourage you to go back and try to operate in the current role you're in before just, making the decision to jump to a different company or a different position altogether. You may find, as I said, that you do better than you think that you will do. Another tip for going back to work successfully is to really be your own advocate. I find that most people want to be helpful, they want to be supportive, but unfortunately in our culture and society and the workplace, a lot of people they don't know what that looks like. People don't want to be offensive. They don't want to be insensitive. They don't want to make it harder for you, but most people don't know how to deal with grief and loss. And so a lot of times they say or do nothing out of fear of offending you or hurting your feelings. So one of the best things I can suggest is to write an email yourself. Think for yourself beforehand, what would be most helpful. Do you want people to talk about the loss? Do you want to have people ask questions? Are you, is sharing helpful for you? Would it help you to feel more connected at work, to be able to let people know if you're having a tough time or to talk about the loss? Or do you want your workplace to just be a completely, compartmentalized place where you don't talk about it? Those are individual choices and decisions, and you may not know completely until you get back to work and decide for yourself. But to think about that and to decide for yourself what is going to be most helpful, and then communicate that to your boss or your team members and just let them know, I would prefer not to talk about it at work. Or, in my example, when I lost my son, I sent an email out to the company, actually, because at the time I was working for a rehab facility and my son died of an overdose. So I shared a lot of the details because I know a lot of the folks on staff could relate and resonate with what I was going through. And I said in that email, feel free to ask me about him or to ask me how I'm doing, But just understand that some days I'm going to be okay to talk about it, and some days I'm not going to be okay to talk about it. And I just ask for their permission to give me the freedom to respond accordingly and for them to not get offended. So certainly do that. Be an advocate for yourself. The other thing I want to encourage you is to be flexible and give yourself grace. You're expending a lot of energy mentally and physically, and even making it through an entire workday. It doesn't sound like it would be a big feat, but it really is, especially when you're first going back. Again, imagine if you had a serious surgery or a serious illness and kind of have to work up your stamina, and you're emotionally, physically drained and depleted. And so working an 8-hour day and having the concentration and focus and everything to be able to do that, you might not be able to do that right out of the gate. So I just want to encourage you to give yourself grace and flexibility, and hopefully your employer will meet you with that same attitude of grace and flexibility, that you can do what you can when you can, and you take breaks when you need to, or you go home when you need to. Again, hopefully you have some hours built up or the financial ability to be able to do that. But I just want to set your expectation that most people don't just, go back to work one day and they're working full time and they're fine. And it's not, their work isn't affected in any kind of way. I also want to encourage you to have, if you can, find a buddy at work that can just be a person to go for a walk with you or to help you take your mind off things. We teach a lot of different techniques and tools about how to distract and how to retrain your thinking if you find that you're getting overwhelmed with heavy emotions or sorrow. And certainly using humor and just getting a break in your routine. If you find you're at your desk and you're feeling really overwhelmed with emotions, being able to get up and go for a walk, and even better, to go for a walk with someone who can talk to you about something else and get your mind off things, is really helpful. So I know everyone's work situation is different, but if you can find someone to be that for you, that would be a really great asset. I want to just remind you that you're so much more than what you do for a job. And no matter how hard it is, this is only a season, right? So when you go back and you're finding it hard and you're feeling like, man, I'm never going to be able to, do my job again, this won't last forever. And the more you work at it, the more support you put around you, the quicker you're going to get back to feeling like yourself or feeling like a whole person again. It will come. So be patient with yourself. I hope that your employer is gracious to you as well. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for doing what's best for you. So if it means needing to find a different position or do something else, at least for this season, then by all means do that, because the most important thing is for you to be able to recover completely and be able to go on to live the rest of your life in a positive and productive way. So that is it. Those are our tips for going back to work. As always, we are here cheering you on every step of the way as you move through grief and get back to living a life that you love. Until next time.